But I think we've talked about that because things have gone like full circle now that people are buying like the vinyls again. And I think there's a very good reason for it. Graham,
you're using the same brain.
I
was just about to say that things are about to go full circle because people are now coming back to vinyl and have been for quite some time. I remember when CDs come out, everyone was saying this is a far superior sound. It's much cleaner, but now everybody's saying it's a lot warmer. The sound you get from vinyl, and I have to agree, it's a different sound.
I mean, Graeme loves his vinyl. He's probably got more vinyl than any of us. I mean, what's it about the vinyl that you have, Graeme, that makes it work for you?
It's a feeling on your skin, I think, isn't it, Graeme?
Yeah, you have the biggest collection of vinyl.
It is a bit of a feeling. The fact that you
more than a feeling.
No, I won't get that far. But you open it up. You pull the vinyl out. There's the sleeve, the insert. There's information there on the record that CDs just don't have. But I will say, CDs are actually a cleaner way to listen to music. There's less chance of it stuffing up. I'm not just going to say vinyl's better because I grew up with vinyl. And you're reading the sleeves. There's so much information in there. As you're listening to the songs, you can also be reading the inside sleeve about the band, whatever they want to throw in there. And Dire Straits were pretty synonymous for some of their albums, their covers. I think the Alchemy cover.
That's some beautiful album covers, isn't they?
Yeah, Brett Whiteley.
See how I bring it back to Dire Straits? Just, yeah.
Well, your comment about vinyl and then you pull it out, I thought just immediately change this podcast rating to an R.
Particularly when you look at our back catalogue, we've got an episode called Graham's Vinyl Underpants.
That's right.
Okay, there's maybe another disclaimer coming. Yeah, anyway.
Are we going to see the covers on this audio medium?
Sid, would you like to talk about the Alchemy cover?
Yeah, maybe you should hold it up for our listener.
Hold it up for our listener. It's a Brett Whiteley painting. I don't even know how to describe it, but
it's very abstract.
I mean, yes, you see guitar. It's like everywhere. I wouldn't.
There's a lot going on, isn't there?
My favourite Brett Whiteley, but geez, it makes the album stand out, and it's very synonymous. You go, bang, that's Alchemy. That's what an album cover should do. That's where your first impression should be, when you go, wow, look at the cover, and it's ticked that box well and truly.
For our listener at home, Graham's actually holding up the centerfold now of the album cover. It opens up into a very large image of the band on stage in kind of like a cartoon type arrangement with the crowd behind it. It's very effective.
It's the crowd from the Hammersmith Odeon where it was.
I was
recorded.
about to ask you if it was Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah, it was.
That's just a crackerjack album that. For a Dire Straits album, it also finishes off with a Mark Knopfler's solo song, Going Home.
Oh, yeah, love it. Love that song.
Yeah.
From the film Local Hero.
Local Hero, yes.
What a crackerjack film that was.
Funnily enough, I think I've got the vinyl copy of it here somewhere.
All right.
There we go. Local Hero.
So Graham's holding up more vinyl, and this was Local Hero.
There's the CD.
And there's the movie for Local Hero.
Stuff.
And this particular vinyl is got a yellow cover, if you just need to visualise that. And, we don't plug other things, but watching the movie Local Hero, it's a quaint film. I think it's a lovely film. As Molly Meldrum would say, go do yourself a favour.
The band in the movie, I think they're called the Acetones, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And if our younger listeners don't know who Molly Meldrum is, ask your grandparents.
Yeah.
I'll try to ask your parents first so they don't feel that old.
I think on the soundtrack of Local Hero, the only other I know Alan Clark plays the keyboards through the movie.
And again, a bloke who became a permanent member of Dire Straits.
Absolutely.
But not part of the original lineup. So
no, because they didn't have keyboards on the first.
No. It was just a guitar band.
Yeah, they were very much a guitar band early on, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was around I think, era.
I think 82 when Knopfler started, or Mark Knopfler started to describe the band as a rock and roll orchestra in live performances.
Yeah. Oh, I'd go with that.
Yeah.
100%.
He was spot on. Absolutely spot on.
So the challenge I want to put to you, gentlemen, and for those young viewers, gentlemen is an old-fashioned term that we use to describe our peers, and it's meant to show a bit of faked politeness there. But Graeme, we'll start off with you. The challenge is, without naming Sultans of Swing, try to name 2 or 3 tracks that you think are the top shelf, which you think are the better Dire Straits songs, and why.
So these are your favourite best Dire Straits songs?
Your favourites and why? Yeah.
My favourite Dire Straits track is Telegraph Road. For reasons, obviously, the words of the song are awesome. I love them. I can never get sick of them. They're still relevant now. And the music and the guitar solos, especially at the end, just phenomenal. The fact that it goes for 14 minutes, 28 seconds, it's a pretty long track.
It is. It's an amazing track.
But you sit there, like for me, I sit in the garage and it's dark at night and I put that on and just lie back on the couch and listen to that. And can't get enough. And I'll never get sick of it, obviously.
Graeme, I'm 100% with you. Telegraph Road, that is one of their classics. No debates there from me, that's for sure. Number
2 of the same album is It Never Rains. One of their probably lesser known tracks. I think it's the last song on the album. A whopping short, nearly 8 minutes. It's fantastic.
Really compromised in.
Fantastic words. If you get a chance to listen to it, listen to the words, try and figure out what they're talking about. It's not that hard, but it's quite deep, and the guitar at the end is just blows me away. Third song, which is hard, and I think it's one, Sid, that you'd like, would be Wild West End. Just love it. Just can't get enough of it. Whatever version they ever made of it, absolutely adore it.
Nice picks, Graeme.
Yeah, just you can sit back and actually hear some of those songs in your mind and just play them. They are super good choices.
Yeah, you'll know that I didn't pick Calling Elvis at all.
I don't think
anyone did.
We'll go to what people might call their duds a bit later on. Eddie, same challenge, and the challenge is not to mention Sultans of Swing. I think it's a brilliant track.
Yeah.
2 or 3 of the tracks that you like and why.
Look, favourite track of all time would have to be Industrial Disease, mainly for the reasons that Graeme mentioned before. It's very quirky, and I love the swing feel it has when the chorus comes up. I love the bit where there's just drums and he's just doing that whole spiel. And Dr. Parkinson declared, "I'm not surprised to see you here." That whole spiel is just amazing. It's so well done. And it's just really speaks to the time it was written too, where there was a lot of industrial action happening, and a lot of those companies were like almost
raping the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Industrial Disease, probably number 1. Number 2, Romeo and Juliet, based mainly on the fact that when I saw it live, there was just this spotlight shining down on his national guitar, his steel guitar.
Banjo-like guitar.
It looked like a banjo, but they're made by a company called National, and they're very sought after instruments. They're very, very rare. And just to see him finger picking, because that's the way he played. He doesn't use a pick like you generally think of most guitarists. He uses his 2 fingers rest on the bridge of the guitar, and he uses 3 fingers and picks.
I know.
I just demonstrated that for the listener there too. So
the whole feel of it, you've got to remind yourself he does not use a plectrum or a pick at all.
Yeah, at all. He's totally a finger picker, which is
Eddie, can I ask you?
Amount of skill. Yeah.
Have you seen the film clip that they released when they brought the single out?
Yeah, I have.
How good is it?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
To the listener out there, Google
YouTube
the song.
You'll find it.
And have a check out the 1982 there-ish about video clip. It's different.
have we overlooked? Have we not given you a third choice there, Ed?
No. Third choice, bit of a toss-up. I would probably say the title track from the Brothers in Arms album, Brothers in Arms. It's, it's a pretty deep song, and I love a ballad. And, he's just, that sort of demonstrates how good Knoffler was as not only a musician, but as a songwriter and a lyricist. Amazing song.
If I was given the same challenge, ironically, one of the songs I would have chosen is that last one that you've talked about, the actual song Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
Doing a little bit of background reading, and you've got to remember the timing of when the album was created. That there were two things that really inspired him about the song. One is in 82, there was the Falklands War. So we're talking about British troops fighting in the Falklands, just outside of Argentina, not trying to be drawn into the political names there. But what he was concerned about is yes, people come back and they're fought and they're marked for life, even in a short battle like that one, which I think was only about 2 months long. And then the other aspect is a conversation that he had with his father. And this part, I don't know if he was a World War II vet or not. I'm not sure about that detail. But the whole thing is it's a conversation against two foes on a battlefield. And I think that's where the poignancy of the song comes across. And I think it is just done brilliantly. If I was to choose number 2, I would choose Tunnel of Love. Not because it's got that interesting carousel part, which I do love at the start. I think one is it's a love song that is so incredibly innocent, where you're just talking about you're loving that feeling of just being engrossed with somebody else, and it's like a meeting of minds or a meeting of souls, and it's an interesting love song that's there's not something carnal or sexual about it. It's just we've bonded, we've connected. And what Knoffler could do so well is sometimes convey the emotion. So if you want to get an idea of what I'm talking about, that same concert that you were talking about, Eddie, in Sydney in 86, you listen to the last 5 minutes where it's that guitar solo, and it's just conveying that emotion of that old-fashioned feeling of love, which I think is just really great, and I think the songs really nailed it well. So
yeah, Tunnel of Love was great. It was awesome live too, because they actually started with that whole carousel thing. It was amazing. I mentioned that it was a toss-up. I mean, the other song I would have put in was Espresso Love. Mm-hmm. Familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh yeah, because it's been kind of mentioned, and I'm in two minds about this one. We're going to stick with an old favourite. Not particularly because of its lyrics, even though it's got an interesting play with words. I just love the groove of it. And I'm talking about Once Upon a Time in the West. And I think it's really hard not to just get attracted to the groove. And some interesting thing that the drums are doing during that to create a little bit of different pace at times. You got to listen to it. It's very, very subtle, and I think it's just one of those great tracks where they just get into a groove and let it happen. There's even a clip on YouTube where they're actually putting it to the old, I think, 50s or 60s movie, Once Upon a Time in the West, to the Dire Straits song. And it wasn't designed to work that way, but somehow it works terrifically well.
They were really bluesy, folksy back then, weren't they, in a way?
Mm-hmm.
Before they hit the big time rock and roll, Brothers in Arms. Deep roots in blues and folk.
I think blues folk really does summarise them quite well, even where Brothers in Arms is sometimes called their first kind of commercial album, which is probably unfair with the exception of the, Money for Nothing type song. But I think, when we're talking about classic songs and reasons why, the band kind of semi-broke up after their big tour, went very quiet. And then in the early 90s, they put out one more studio album, did one big tour, not to the same degree as the other tour. And I think a lot of people feel like that last album of theirs was like a letdown in comparison to all their back catalogue in the past. And it's just not at the same level of depth musically, lyrically. It's not ticking all the boxes that we associated with Dire Straits.
Are you saying Calling Elvis was total dog shit?
I'm just saying it wasn't at the same level. It was just a letdown. That's what I'm saying, what some of the criticisms are. So I was going to put it to you, since Eddie, you've come in. How do you feel about that last couple of years of their career? Was it like a letdown? Was it still all right? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I think that last album they did, there are a couple of tracks on there that were okay, but I think all in all, it was just dog shit.
Mm-hmm. I kind of
compared to some of the earlier stuff. I mean, you look at Alchemy. I mean, fair dinkum.
Yeah,
that's almost perfection, that album.
I don't know if they were burnt out or cashing in their fame. I wasn't too sure. It's just they lost their kind of mission or the music that they normally do and put out in the lyrics. It just
the way it came across to me was
what was them.
Yeah, I think they were under contract to release a certain amount of albums in a certain amount of time, and this was just a contractual obligation. They'd, for all intents and purposes, broken up already, but I think they were just fulfilling the contract to complete that last album, because it really was thrown together, I think. It just, man, Calling Elvis, ouch.
Yeah, a couple of memorable things about the On Every Street album.
Yep.
Okay, the Calling Elvis video was pretty good with the Thunderbirds.
Granted.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't, especially at the end when they all start smashing into the girl's flat. Pretty well done. But also, I think they had Randy Quaid in one of the videos, Heavy Fuel. I don't know if he sort of acts as a roadie.
That's Randy Quaid, is it?
Yeah.
I know the film clip. Yeah.
Kids, if you don't know who Randy Quaid is, ask your grandparents.
I think there's another song on the album called The Bug, which I didn't mind. Fade to Black was pretty good. You and Your Friends, actually quite a good track. I'm not sure, Eddie, if you were saying they were contracted, maybe they were, but I think Knoffler was just getting into this American sort of country type feel.
Oh, no, I don't know that for a fact. I just said it seems to me they may have been under contract to complete a certain amount of albums, and
yeah, he just seemed to go American,
broken up by
American sort of country and west.
Yeah.
And then, and I think after Dire Straits did break up, he started doing albums with Chet Atkins, sort of followed that sort of vein.
He did.
And
he actually took him collaborated with quite a few.
There's a lot of good guitar on Every Street. The old whiny sort of Mark Knoffler, the way he stretches the strings and runs around the frets, but there wasn't the same thought that were in their earlier albums. Especially 1 through 4.
I've got to be honest, I don't really know the album that well. Maybe we should go back and have another listen to it. Because
but
try and get through it.
Straits albums, you give it one listen to, and what's your next compulsion? I've got to listen to it again. It just didn't have that feel to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that was the only one I didn't buy.
To be honest, same. It's the only one I haven't got on vinyl. I've got all these soundtracks, all the albums, multiple times, but I never bought that one.
Yeah.
Just quietly, Sid and Eddie, On Every Street did go to number 1 in the US, Australia, and England.
Oh, yeah, that's because of their reputation.
I'll tell you, the first album went to number 1 in Australia.
Yep.
Communique went to number 5. Making Movies only made it to number 4.
That's a great album, Making Movies.
Love Over Gold went to number 1. Obviously, Brothers in Arms went to number 1. And I think, as you said, it was the first CD to crack 1 million sales. And it's also their highest selling album, I think 30 million plus units, Brothers in Arms.
So how do we get the kiddies to appreciate Dire Straits?
You can't.
We grew up in a magical era where Dire Straits was big. And yes, what we did have is when the music was new. And now it's, some of us 40 plus years old, but the bottom line is it's still very good. It stood the test of time. So how do we get the kiddies to listen to it?
I think the only way you get the kids into it is to have some rapper sample parts of their music and
oh God,
put out some pile of shit in the name of rap.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you could digitally alter the film clips to make them dancing like they're on Fortnite, Maybe.
There's an interesting
That is
thought.
gold.
Yeah.
That's a very, very interesting thought.
I'm sure it could be done.
Yeah, if it's not Fortnite, it's Roblox or however that's going to work. That's
Or Five Nights at Freddy's if you're that way inclined.
Yeah.
It's funny, actually. My brother-in-law was in a band back in the day, and I remember before I went to see the concert, I said to him, I've been listening to this new band called Dire Straits. Have you heard of them? And he goes, guess yeah. And he starts playing Sultans of Swing with the band. I used to go to their rehearsals and watch them. That was kind of how I got the taste for bands and being on stage and everything. And yeah, they just launched into Sultans of Swing, and they've been listening to them for years. And they had a bit of a chuckle that I'd called them this new band called Dire Straits.
I mean, you're talking about a band from an era where a lot of bands went crazy with their image. They had like drug problems, and all this kind of thing. Sometimes they had to run in with the police.
Drug problems in bands?
Yeah. And
wow.
But that was never a thing with Dire Straits, was it? It was still always about the music.
They never seemed to be in trouble, did they? Not in the same way that the Stones were or the Beatles.
I know a few band members had divorces. I was well aware of that. But we're talking about a band, no drug problems, no legal problems. No scandals. Divorces. I mean, they're British, you know what I mean? And they're rubbish tabloids over there. Wow. It was all about the music. That's what makes them so unique too.
Mm.
That concert in Sydney was probably the most fanciest I've ever seen Knopfler dress. If you ever watched the video. Like I said, sometimes jeans and a singlet.
There's something very special about watching an aging bald man trying to pull off a headband.
And wristband.
Yeah, and wristband. Yeah. It's fluorescent wristband too, I might add.
But it was almost like the gimmick was, apart from the headband, there was no gimmick. It was just them. It was them and their music. You got to know their names and stuff like that. They came across as super ordinary guys who could play and really, really good music.
Jack Sonny, was it? Or?
No, that's the guitarist, Jack Sonny. But there was Alan Clark
was a guitarist,
and Guy Fletcher. Yeah.
I remember he was wearing a pastel suit with no shoes, and he was a great dancer, and he was playing away.
That's Jack Sonny.
Yeah,
that's Jack Sonny. And I remember the concert progressively through that. He went from the suit, he lost the jacket, then he had the shirt, then he lost the shirt. And you kept on wondering, how far are you going to keep on going? But yes, there was no shoes on.
Well, just incidentally, that concert is fully available on YouTube for free. So you can actually jump on and just Google 1986 Sydney Dire Straits and it'll come up.
Look for Eddie in the crowd.
Jack of a concert.
Yeah.
If you want some fashion tips, look at Hal Lynn's during the Alchemy concert.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, the striped pants. So quickly, we haven't spoken about the Notting Hill Billies.
Wasn't there a response to the Travelling Wilburys?
In a way, yeah. I think the only other member of the band that went with them was Guy Fletcher, but their manager through most of the years, Ed Bicknell, played drums, I think, for the Notting Hill Billies.
I read the same.
Wow.
And he was the manager also of Jerry Rafferty and Brian Ferry.
All right.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So
I'm name dropping, but I'm allowed to do it.
Very big acts at the time.
Yeah. So you can imagine the web, all these people weave together, like how they cross paths. And like Mark Knoffler played a lot with Clapton and others. Just amazing stuff. What a life.
He's still playing today. You see him pop up every now and then. He'll just come on stage when someone else is playing.
Well, listener, I think you can start to hear where our conversation is starting to go to or degenerate to. But we've had a lot of fun reminiscing about really one of the best bands I think there was in the late 70s up to the mid-80s, and Dire Straits. So, listener, if you're new to knowing Dire Straits, I think the best thing you can do is, well, not only just hear from us and our opinions, but, initially go on, like, YouTube, watch some of the clips, and then do yourself a favour, like, buy the albums, probably even go to the vinyl albums, because, I mean, obviously you're showing one way to show support to the band, but oh my God, you're going to enter into a realm of music that is absolutely top shelf. So I'd say from myself, Eddie and Graeme, it's been brilliant to go down a bit of memory lane to talk about one of the better bands that's ever been in our view. So I'd say, hopefully you enjoy it. Don't forget to show your love via Patreon. And also, how do you email us if you want to speak to us? How does that go again, Eddie? How do they email us?
If the listener or the kids want to email us, they can drop us a message at podnoname@gmail.com, or they can get us on our Facebook page, providing, of course, the kids know what Facebook is. It's a social media platform used by a lot of grandparents. They can get us at facebook.com/podnoname or at podnoname. You can always go to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/podnoname. If you feel sorry for us for some of the episodes we put out recently, you can donate.
Or other ways, it's just another way to, show us the love, show us that you're actually listening. And $1 will go a very long way, because $1 will at least help to pay probably about, less than 1% of our podcasting bill for the year. Would that be about right?
Yeah, it's not quite $1 a day. It's probably about half that.
Yeah, but every little bit helps there.
It sure does. Yeah, we're losing money doing this, but we love it. So keep listening, listener, and the kids, and hopefully you'll jump on Patreon and chuck a bit of money our way.
And with us, you'll get your money for nothing and your kids for free. It's like the Australian ABC.
That was really good, Sid. Can you say that again?
Well, maybe if I rephrase it back to how it should be. And just, don't forget that with us, you get your money for nothing and your chicks for free.
Yes, it's been said that our podcast is worth every cent you pay for it.
I was going to throw a quote in there just to finish things up, and it's a quote from the great man, Mark Knoffler. And it could apply to this podcast in a way. But it's not long after he introduces Mel Collins on the saxophone just before Two Young Lovers on our community, he then says, "Follow this, lads. See how we go."
Yeah. What can I say? The name Dire Straits came out of a financial situation, but aren't we better off that they were able to get that record deal? Thank you, Dire Straits.
Great band. And Knopfler is an absolute musical genius. We're pretty fortunate to have been able to listen to some of his stuff.
He'd be the kind of person, like a couple hundred years from now, people would be listening to his stuff and analysing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He definitely had his own style.
The conservatory of music will be playing his stuff.
And still trying to figure out how he came with that guitar style.
Well, it's very unique. I've never seen anybody play like that before. The actual,
he can't read the music.
No, it's true.
It's all ear to fingers. It's just one of those. The best guitarists in the world always. It's just they hear it in their head and they can just put it into their hands.
Yeah,
you've either got it or you don't, and very few do.
Most, what's your favourite dress?
Anything that you're not in.
Well, obviously I'm not in all those ones that you got the choice of behind you. But you don't have a favourite?
Not really.
You don't ever feel like grabbing a vacuum cleaner dress and so like a mow and thinking, right, it's my Freddie Mercury, I'm going to clean up the house kind of day. I need to break free.
Actually, none of them are sexy at all. Maybe David Knopfler, he's not too bad.
Well,
Mark Knopfler's kind of pioneered early hair loss.
I think he also pioneered ordinaryless, if that's such a word, just being ordinary.
Yeah.
And he was outdone by Olivia Newton-John with the headband thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that came in a little bit later.
That was an unfortunate turn of events, the headband.
Maybe there's a lot of conjecture about what you should put on the scone.
Yeah, maybe.
Scones.
Scone.
I could dig a scone right now.
Oh, yeah. I
do like a scone.
Do this during a scone or a scone.
It's always been scone to me.
I've never said scone, but I just remember that Goodies episode. They were debating scone. Okay, what do you call the New South Wales town? Is it Scone or
Scone?
Scone.
Yeah.
Scone, but yeah, it's got that title. It's Scone. But if it comes out of the oven and we've been baking it, it's a scone as far as I'm concerned.
No, well, they're scones. You never bake one.
Oh, it is plural.
We've also now got a disclaimer that needs to be made at the start of this podcast.
Oh, because of the few words that I've dropped already? But notice I'm quoting it. I'm not trying to endorse it.
You are a troublemaker, though, Sid. So, you got to...
Yeah. How many push-ups
We've got to cover
is that
ourselves.
for me? Yeah, how many push-ups is that for me?
I'm not sure, but we can't risk offending the tens of people that listen to this show.
We still introduce and speak to our listener as in singular, not plural. And in fact, our statistics back that up.
Yeah, I think it's probably because the majority of the people that listen to the show also participate in it.
And it's not like we rope in a few friends and relatives as well. Can you think of the last time that we received an email, because it has happened, where it wasn't like one of us or a friend or really?
No.
It has happened. It's just been a very long time.
It's been a long time, yeah.
You could always pay someone to do that.
They're very big in Botswana. I've read that.
Penises?
No, Dire Straits. Well, does that go right at the end of the podcast?
Oh, I think it'll be in the outtakes, yeah. It'll have to be in the outtakes.
I wonder where that's going to fit in, where that's going to work. It'd be interesting to know what kind of commercial we can lay down in between here.
The princess, she's always keen to get the ads happening. And she loves anything pre-scripted from you. So we'll have to work on that.
I love vinyl because, as I said, you pull it out, you're holding it. Don't go too far with that.
I'm seeing that your screens are frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We're just not moving because we're listening to your words.
No, I just need to check if it's coming through for the record. I imagine not comfortable.
Just holding that up in the light. I thought that was something you and the wife were experimenting with.
I originally thought it was a weird light shade, but it was so hard to work it out because you're getting a lot of light from the window.
$4.5 grand.
Plus
now I get
$1,000, probably $1,200 worth of consultations and fittings.
Holy crap!
Wow,
that's the front. Actually, that's
how
strapped around the front.
How necessary is it though?
Is it doing the job?
We only got it last week. Just keep stimulating the economy.
Yeah, right. It's people like you that are causing the problem.
That's right. That's correct. Sorry, back to topic. I know what you mean.
50 Shades of Grey.
Movie all your wives go to watch.
That's the movie that women watch. The married women who always complain about having headaches.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
Probably happens to you, Sid.
I mean, what I've found is you be proactive. Is like you say, here you need a Panadol. They go, I don't need a Panadol. And you wait to see how long it takes them to work out what your agenda is.
I see you've got some moves there, Sid.
Yeah, well-crafted moves. I'm not saying it's going to work, but
do you also use the comeback when she says, I've got a headache? Do you say, it's not your head I'm interested in?
Obviously, I haven't read that chapter yet.
I'm never shy to discuss colonoscopies and junk and so on.
I've had 3 colonoscopies. I've enjoyed every single one of them.
I've enjoyed the sleep.
I really do.
You wake up
and the sandwich.
Like the best sleep you've ever had.
The general way in which you can show little snippets of things, if it's educational or where it's there for critique is exempt from those laws.
Exactly.
But you've got to make it clearly educational or a critique.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everything on the podcast with no name is educational.
Yeah.
And when you think about it too,
and we are
sometimes they've got to do
regularly.
Yeah, but sometimes they've got to do this because they put up with it. Like if people actually talk about it, play a bit of a song, it could mean other people check it out, download it. They can get more revenue from it. So they want to be careful about what they're whinging about.
Yeah, I think they're pretty safe with our podcast.
Yeah, that's true.
The captain's been a bit busy lately too, but she's starting to get back into it again.
Oh, whenever she's right. It'd be nice for us to have a break and see her go outside in the dark and light up a smoke again.
Yeah. I missed that, the view up her nostril where she's sitting there.
And sometimes the only thing you'll see is just the little light thing at the end of the smoke, and that's it. But you hear a voice.
Just don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.